What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brutal Planet Comics. I'm your host, Dre the Brew Daniels, and welcome to an episode of the Indie Corner, where I sit down with everybody from the independent community, writers, artists, directors, producers. Doesn't matter if you're in the game. I want to talk to you. So we got ourselves a very special guest. He is the creator of There's an Alien in My Toilet. Can't wait to jump into this. Give it up for everybody for Samuel Vera.
What's up? How's it going?
Good, good. What is going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited
Excellent.
to be talking about duty today.
Oh, yeah. And I can't wait to jump into it. So before we even jump into all the tremendous work that you got cooking, first of all, I want to thank you first and foremost for making the time. I know you're doing your tour of advertisements, and
Yes.
for you to make the time to come speak with me, I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we get into, and I can't wait, there's an alien in my toilet. Let's get to know you just a touch. So, where you from? How did we end up getting here?
Oh, born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, moved to Jersey when I met my wife. So I lived on the East Coast my entire life, and then just about 6 months ago, I moved to Texas. So now I'll spend the second half of my life in Texas. Um, yeah.
Nice, nice. I'm an East Coast boy myself. I've been Washington D.C. till now. So, so yeah. So do you miss the East Coast? Not you? Yeah.
No, I miss people. I don't miss it. I grew up. Everybody knows it's fast paced. It's a hustle and bustle.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a certain temperament. Because there's a lot of short fuses out there. And I think I was tired of the grind, and I just wanted to be in an environment where people were a little more normal and not so. Not walking around with a chip on their shoulders,
Yeah.
guarded. You're afraid to make eye contact, and it's
Yeah.
like I was like, all right, yeah, come on, it's not that serious. You can smile once in a while.
Yeah.
So came out here. My wife is originally from Texas,
Oh,
so
okay.
and we would come out here 3 times a year to visit her family. So I've always wanted to come, and so it was just once COVID hit and the lockdown happened, and I lost my job. She
Oh,
lost her job. We're like, you know what? I think it's the best time to just hightail it out of here and
yeah.
start over. And that's what we did.
Yeah, yeah. I heard I had a lot of good friends that since COVID happened, and like a lot of their stuff got uprooted of things that were out of their control and stuff, and they decided to start making some moves like that. Me, I was lucky enough to have a job in which I work from home. So it was
Nice.
like oh, adjustments or whatever. But that sucks. I'm sorry that it took that for you to have to make the decision to move. I'm pretty sure you want to do it under better circumstances, but always lights at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, you always got to find the positive. And so it's like, we could sit there and wallow in self-pity and say what's going to happen, or we can say, you know what, let's take advantage of this moment, and let's figure it out
Yeah,
in an environment where we're around family, and the weather's better, and
ain't that the truth?
and it's not as congested, where we'll have time to just like relax, think, and come up with the next step in our game plan.
Sweet, 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 and that's awesome. I'm glad to see that your family was able to bounce back from that erosion of
Yeah.
sorts. So that's good, man. That's good. So let's talk about your journey a touch. So before you got into the comic industry, the majority of us started off as fans. So how did you end up getting love for the for comics or in media in general?
My mom, when I was a kid, she used to read Archie comics,
Oh,
and
sweet.
she used to have the digest, and that was my
Hey,
first introduction into comics. And then, and at that, I was she used to. I was a big collector of Star Wars figures,
sweet.
and then I saw my brother drawing two monkeys in a barrel, and I was like, wait, well, three monkeys in a barrel,
You
and I was like,
monkey.
wait, I want to do what he does, right? And so I wanted to draw like my brother, and then I started picking up my own comics. I went to the candy store and they had the spinner rack, and
Mm,
it was Sergeant Rock and GI Joe were my first books that I actually picked up for myself.
wow.
And I was because GI Joe action figures, I was all over those. And so once I saw like Army comic books, I was like, what? I gotta have it. So I just started scooping them up, and then there was a TV series called Too Close for Comfort, and
Okay.
I'm dating myself, but the father was a comic strip illustrator
Yep.
for a comic book called Cosmic Cow, and that's what he did for a living. That's how he paid the bills. And I looked at my mom and said, "You can do this?" And I was like, "That's what I want to do." I didn't know you could, make a living doing this. And so that was my first introduction of the possibility of making a career out of comics.
Nice, nice. That's cool, man. I mean, that's just like I always love. Every time I interview my guests, I always love hearing their origin stories of how they got there. Like me, I grew up a big fan. Like I always tell everyone, the moment I came out, my mama's womb, I had a Batman comic in my hand. You know what I mean? Off the jump, I was enamored with that level of storytelling and all that great heroics and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting that your mom is the one that really got you into it. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was surprising. You don't realize it. The subtle. When you look back, and I'm like, because when the first time I was asked that question, I had to think about it. I was like, wait, it was my mom. It was Archie. I remember she would say, she would put it down. She goes, here, you can read it because she was safe for the kids, and I was like, wow, so I was like glued to it. And but my first purchase was at the candy store. I went to the candy store to buy chips, and I saw a spinner rock. I was like, comic books. I saw GI Joe. I saw Sandra Rock. I was like, Army. I was like, I want that, and that was it. And then I was like, and I got so hooked to it. Eventually, I got into X Factor, X Men, X Force, Excalibur, anything X.
X,
It
all
was on
X's
me.
involved.
Yeah, I became a huge Marvel buff first.
Okay,
Um, um, uh, the Super Friends, I would watch on the cartoons,
of
but for
course.
comic books, it was always the X teams for some reason. I just felt like they felt more real to me.
Mm,
The other
mm.
ones felt like they were beyond my reach, but the X Men felt like, because I always felt like I was an outsider. So, I felt like I could relate. I was like, oh man, these guys, they're misfits. They banded together, and they're fighting against evil.
Exactly, exactly. And I can see how that became, I wouldn't say attractive to it, but get you hooked because that's what a lot of the stories got people motivated that way. And
Yeah.
I myself can relate to it. Like I was a big Uncanny X-Men fan, growing up, which was my personal favorite run because, like you said, the realism, the characters, they felt like real people.
Right.
And then of course I grew up watching the cartoons and like the X-Men and Batman the animated series and all the other wonderful, wonderful things.
Right.
And that's kind of like how I started my extra level of fandom. So yeah, I could see how that worked. I
Yeah.
could see exactly where you're coming from. Well done, well done. I like that. I like that. So we went from being a fan and wanting to be in the industry, but how did we transition from just fandom into actually working in the biz?
It was started out with because I was in the music business,
Oh, sweet.
and I remember talking with my manager, my producer, and I was like, we had a production company called Crazy Skills Production, and I wanted to create my own multimedia company, and it was going to be Crazy Media Group, which I currently own.
Sweet.
Crazy Media Group, and I wanted divisions: Crazy Comics, Catch the Craze, Crazy Skills Productions. So everything was gonna be around crazy.
That's pretty cool. Crazy universe. I'm with it.
Yes, yes. And so then, the music. I walked away from the music because a lot of my mom. I lost my mom to cancer, and
Oh, I'm
and
so
I almost
sorry.
lost my partner. He got shot, so
Oh my.
he survived, but sorry.
No, it's okay.
Um,
Oh, I'm terribly sorry for the loss of your mother. I'm terribly sorry.
Thank you. He survived, but those two situations were too much for me. I just walked away from everything, and I went into like solitude for a few years, and then I just wanted to create. I just wanted to make my comic, and I started working on the comics with a bunch of guys. Didn't pan out. Everybody went their separate ways. Then I went to School of Visual Arts for continuing education, and I met George Medina there, a buddy of mine, in a life drawing class.
Oh, okay.
And how we started talking is because the life drawing classes, all the models were male. So I was like, I'm tired of this. So I was like, would turn my chair. I was like, I'm not looking at this guy anymore. So we start talking, and so he has a comic booklet, and the teacher was annoyed with me, and because I would always omit the one piece from the work. He's like, "You're not drawing everything." I said, "There's not enough room on it for him and it." I said, "So I picked him, and I'm leaving it out." I was such a pain in the ass, and so I looked at George. And I was like, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "I see you have a comic booklet," and he had a little ash can, like 8.5 by 11, that he would draw and he'd fold it. And it was like a hip hop duck. And I told him about Crazy Comics, and I said, "You want to get down?" And he said, "Sure." And then so we got together, and then I had a hookup, a friend of mine, who was able to print the comics for us in high gloss, full color.
Oh, sweet.
Pennies on the dollar. The caveat was he would give it to us in stacks like this, and we would have to fold it and staple it ourselves, right? So we had to buy those extra long staplers that get down to the middle, and then we would put boxes on top of them to keep them flat.
Them industrial staplers.
Yes, yes. So we would be in my living room floor just folding, stapling, stacking. And then another friend of mine knew the promoter for the Big Apple Comic Con. His name is Michael Carbonero. We didn't have money for a convention table, but we wanted to do a convention. So I said, "Can you introduce me?" So I go to meet Michael Carbonero, and he's like Mick Jagger on speed, on ADD, like to the 100th degree, right? I'll say, "Hey, my name is Sam," and then 2 seconds later he goes, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Sam. I just introduced myself." So what are you here for? Remember I was talking about a table? What's your name? Sam. Remember? This would go on for like 5 minutes. Like, this guy's driving me nuts. So I was like, "Hey, how do I get a table?" He goes, "It costs this much. Go see that guy." I said, "No, how do I get a table for free?" He's like, "Oh no, we don't get free tables." So I pulled out a poster that I did for the Big Apple Comic Con. He's like, "Hey, that's my show." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Who did that?" I said, "I did." He goes, "Can you do it again?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You do it again and you can have a table at the next convention." I said, "Sure." So for 4 years we helped with his promotion, and we were staple at the show. We didn't have for free. That was our first intro into it was the hustle, So
wow, the grind. Of course,
it was the grind. Yes,
absolutely.
And then we wanted to make a splash. It was our first ever convention with our first, we had full color comics. We got jerseys, so we looked like a baseball team.
Nice.
It was crazy. We were there, and we were selling the books hand over fist. Everyone was like, "Oh my, who are these guys?" This is around the Image era, so people were like, are these guys gonna be the next Image? Who are these guys? What are they? How they can afford gloss? Look at their uniforms, right? So we were like, it was crazy. Even so much so that even Brian Polito came over to us, and then he started talking about it, and then he started giving us advice on how to avoid the pitfalls of the game. And then the promoters were so happy. They said, "You know what? You guys are a hit here. You have a spot with us all the time." Nice. And because we were bringing it up, and we were engaging. We were never sitting down. We were talking. We were hustling. And that was our first. That was our first. And it was a good thing. And it was a bad thing. It was good because there was a relief taken off, but it was bad for our egos, right? Because we thought this is going to be a constant, right? It was like, so we didn't have like, that first show where nobody knows you and you're like, waiting for a date to ask you to dance. Yeah. This was like, we popped off and we're like, we're going to be the bomb. Yeah, that was a big mistake.
That's crazy, but I love it. That's awesome. Y'all are like overnight rock stars. That's a cool little bit. That story is amazing. I like that. That's really cool. And like similar to you, I've been producing comics for a number of years now and cranking them out. The grind never ends. I remember when I was trying to pretty much get funding to do my first event, and I was like, man, I'm broke, but somehow, and luckily I knew a guy that lived in Baltimore, and he was like, "Hey, I know this comic shop. They're like one of their vendors dropped out. The table's available." I was like, "Sweet Jesus!" I'm like, let me get over there as fast as I can. And then that was actually my first event, is because someone else fumbled, and it was a huge success. Like a whole bunch of folks in the neighborhood turned out and everything. It was I darn near sold out of my issues. I'm like, yo, this is tremendous. I'm like, this is tremendous. And it was a really, really sweet deal. And I mean, that's what it's all about. It's all about that hustle. It's all about that grind. It's all about taking them golden opportunities or taking one. So that's the way it is. That's the
Yes,
way it
you got to
is.
take advantage of the moment, and there's always a way. You just have to get creative.
Exactly, exactly. So let's jump into your work a touch here. Let's talk about there's an alien in my toilet, and I took a look at the issue number one first flush cover
Mhm.
bit with the whole Matrix thing going on and all
Yeah.
that. Yo, that I'm feeling that. So before you give me all the ins and outs, where did this idea come from?
It was back in '05. A newspaper editor approached us and said, "Hey, if you have a comic strip, science-based comedy, we would be willing to publish it." So I was driving through the Lincoln Tunnel, and then bam, Duty pops in my head. And he says, "Hi, I'm Duty from Uranus," and I was like, "What?" And so I met the guys at IHOP. I was like, "I got my next book. It's gonna be there's an alien in my toilet. His name is Duty. He's from Uranus," and I just started sketching it, and that was the birth of Duty.
Mm,
And I decided when we were working on a comic strip, and I didn't want it to be a comic strip. I said, "You know what? Forget the papers. I'm gonna do this myself." And and that was that stubborn thing in me. So I produced the book, the comic book, and I released it I debuted it at the cons, and people were eating it up. And
nice.
then somehow I convinced my wife to let me take that platinum card that Discover in the crazy mind decided to give me. And so I said, "Look, I want to go to Licensing Expo. I want to get a booth. I want to pitch it to the big boys." Um, 10 grand later. That's how much that damn thing cost, right?
Oh,
So at my
wow.
point, it took forever to pay that off, and luckily we're still married.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it
that was
took
a gamble there, Sam.
yes. So we go to Licensing Expo. We're dressed for the prom. We got the big booth, we got the big posters, we got the animation, all that stuff, whatever, and it got everybody showing interest.
Nice.
So much so that I knew that I needed representation. So a management company called Circle of Confusion. They represent the Wachowski brothers, the Matrix.
Oh,
They
wow.
represent Robert Kirkman, The Walking Dead. They're like, look, we can help you with this. Um, our fee is 15% when we secure a deal. So we don't take any money from you. We make our money when we secure a licensing deal for you, and we'll shop it to the networks, and we'll weed out the ones who are full of crap versus the legitimate ones. And that's how that started. So they got us meetings with Disney, Warner Brothers,
Oh,
and
wow.
we were so close to a cartoon deal. But what happened was the first quarter of every year, all companies, review time, right? So
Absolutely.
January, everyone's preparing for their reviews. So they restructure, right? So some people get fired, some people get promoted, departments change hands, leadership, and that's what happens. So the acquisitions teams for those divisions were no longer with the company. They changed heads,
Oh.
and so everything that was on the table, I wasn't the only one. I was just I was part of the body bag list,
Mm.
ended up in the trash, and so it was that and a few other series of unfortunate events,
Yeah.
and the fact that financially I couldn't do it anymore because I was eating our personal income away. I walked away for comics for over 10 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. So, okay. So after, well, first of all, I'm sorry all that stuff went through. Man, that sucks.
No
Sorry,
problem.
sorry, I'm sorry to hear that. That breaks my heart. That breaks my heart. And then of course, obviously, you had to walk away for your family and all that stuff. That makes perfect sense to me. So what brought it back from the dead?
So for years I've always been looking at the rearview mirror, and I remember it's like 6 years being away. I went to as a spectator. I've never been to a Comic-Con as a spectator. I've always been there as the guy behind the table,
Hmm.
and so I went as a spectator. And I felt like a fish out of water. I felt like I didn't know the place. I felt
Mm.
like that foreigner that comes to a new country and they just don't speak the language. I was like, why do I feel awkward? Why do I
Mm.
feel isolated? And so I left, and then we got our finances in order. I excelled in the corporate arena. We got ourselves a house. Everything was stabilized. We were good. And then I was just I always had my office. Because I would always draw. And I told my wife, I was like, I don't want to be the guy that says, "What if?" I want to finish what I started. And so she gave me the Adrian speech that she gives Rocky, and she says, "Go
Ooh.
for it." And I was like, "That's it." So I met up with George again after 10 years. It's like, "Hey, I'm going to bring back the podcast because I launched a podcast in '05, catchdacraze, and I walked away from that too. So I left
Mm.
everything." And so I was like, "I'm gonna bring back the podcast." And then I went on social media, says, "Oh, I'm coming back into comics." And then Mark Torres, he has a radio show in Long Island called The King from the Radio. He hit me up. He says, "Hey, you want to make that announcement on my show?" I said, "Sure." So I drove to Long Island, went inside the studio, and made my formal announcement to come back. And I started with the Kids Comic Con, and that was my first back introduction into the game again in 2019, just a couple years ago.
Wow, that is awesome, bro. That's an awesome look. I love me a good redemption arc. I love a redemption arc, man. But I mean, but from what I've heard, because like, it's funny because when our mutual buddy Jeff had reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, there's this guy named Samuel Vera. I want him to be on your show." I'm like, who is Samuel Vera? Let me look there. Like, let me look. I'm like, oh snap. I'm like, yo. I'm like, oh, he's popping in the streets. I'm like, oh. Like, yeah. I'm like, I'll buy out some time for him. For sure. I'll buy out some time. But yeah, but I love the fact that you went back to what, more or less, not to no fault of your own, but what had fell down and fell forward. But you end up making it fall forward in a really cool redemption arc, and to see the you making the rounds and putting in the work to bring your work to life again. It's beautiful to see. I think it's amazing. I love the origin of that. I mean, like, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, see me. I've dabbled in screenwriting and stuff before in the past. Like, Sam, I'm gonna just have to just buy your rights to your life and just do that. It's just like, hey, there's this guy. I'm gonna just steal all that and just do it over here. Like, that is really cool. Like what you're laying down to me is like something you would see in like a drama or something like that. But it happened. But it's actually your life, and to see that it is reflecting in how you're bringing your work back from the brink, as just like you were in the brink. That is really cool, man. That is really, really cool. So how far are we into the arc of there's an alien in my I like saying it. There's an alien in my toilet. Like, so how far is this arc going? Is this episodical? Are these standalone stories? How is this working?
It's a 10-part miniseries.
Okay.
So it's 10 issues, and then at the end of the 10, the punchline for the title is on the 10th issue. So when you're trying to figure out the title, it's at that last issue. Then it jumps off into his own series, Duty, and so that's Duty's return to Earth, where he, intelligence says that Santa Claus is the leader of Earth, so he has to infiltrate Santa's camp and take him out. So he has to get past his defenses, the snowmen, the elves, and all that stuff. So the first 6 issues are already done.
Okay.
So like I said, this campaign, no one has to wait. As soon as the campaign's ended, it goes to print, and as soon as I get everything back from the printer, it goes right out the door to everybody, so they'll get it in April. Because this campaign ends March 8th. And then the second issue will launch in June. June. The campaign will launch in June.
Okay.
And then the third around October.
Okay. Sweet. So, I mean, like me, I love a long story arc. I'm a sucker for that. So, like me, I'm an episodical writer. So, like, everything that I write is like to be continued. Like the old school hook line. Like, oh my god, I gotta get the next one. So, like yo, that's cool. I love that. So is this? I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But so, like, in the future, do you want to, like, once this 10-issue miniseries is done, like, what do you want to do with this project? Are you wanting to get back into television? You want to get back into
Duty is the brand. The end of my toilet is the title of the series, but Duty is the brand. And so yes, the whole thing, everything around is centers around Duty. So there's a trading card game around that I'm developing. So in this campaign, there's the first volume of the trading cards.
Okay.
And so every campaign is going to have, there's going to be 13 volumes of trading cards because there's a lot of characters in the universe. So every campaign is going to have another volume of cards. and for the playing deck. The rule book comes out at the end of the year for the gameplay.
Oh my.
But you can get the guidebook with all the characters in this campaign. So
Wow.
everything centers around duty. There's a plush doll. There's a 6-inch figure. There's a coloring book. There's a guidebook. There's trading cards. There's already on the campaign. There's a 54-second animated trailer, and it's basically the opening sequence. So what I'm doing is I'm crossing all T's and dotting all I's. So when I go into the room the next time, the pitch room, everything's ready.
Yeah.
All we have to do is to say, where do we sign?
Yeah, look, you're burning the candle on both ends, brother. Heck, a third candle stuck on there somewhere. That is amazing. Look, I never even thought about making trading cards out of my series. I never even thought about that. Not trading, yeah, like a trading card game, like a legit game, not like a baseball trading cards, but like
no, this is gonna be a tabletop.
Yeah, like a tabletop. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I'm like, yo,
dice and everything.
Yeah, that's like I never even. I got to pick your brain from time to time. So I got to pick your brain because that's a really good idea. And that yo man, and you're right. So like you're gonna have the board game, you got the rules, you got the cards, you got all the issues set. You be like, hey baby, let's work something out. Like everything's here, everything's laid out.
Yeah.
Man, if that's not a good idea, I mean that's brilliant. Wow, that's awesome. So Sam, with all this stuff you got cooking. Where can folks get your work at? Where can they get it?
Right now, you can go to the campaign and back. There's Nailing in My Toilet, but everything else that I produce, because I have a book called Forbidden, I have some other children's books. You go to icreatestories.com, or Crazy Comics with 2 E's, or they go to the same spot. So icreatestories.com, it has everything I've published, the shows that I'm going to be at in 2022, the conventions. News updates, where I'm going to be as far as podcasts and all that stuff. So it's all encompassing. So you can get all the information about me in there.
Awesome. I'm going to leave all of that good stuff in the description section below. Man, that is dope. I love your story. I love the redemption arc. I love that you didn't give up. I love everything about you is just resonating like, yo, back this man. You know what I mean? That is really cool. That is really, really cool. So, wow. I'm a hard man to impress, Sam. I won't lie to you. I'm a hard man to impress. But you have impressed me this day. Wow, that is really, really cool. My goodness. Well, I'm going to wish you all the success, Sam. Like all the success in the world, man, because you deserve it, man.
Thank you.
You deserve it. You out there grinding, you out there hustling, you out there burning them candles, man. That's dope. Man,
your fate is decided by the choices you make.
Yep.
You know?
Preach, brother. Yeah. Preach. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah, but anyway, Sam, I want to thank you for taking the time out to come and share your story with me, share your terrific work and all the other stuff you got cooking. Man, this has been a serious pleasure being able to sit here with you.
Same here. Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, man, the pleasure is all mine. Well, everybody, that is Samuel Vera. Check out all his work in the description section below. I'm going to leave it there. And follow him on all his social media platforms and check out his Kickstarter. He's gonna have a bunch of them throughout this year anyway. Just keep supporting all of them. The man is doing, as I love to say on this show, the Lord's work. He is getting it done. And of course, you already know who I am. I'm Trey the Brute Daniels. Follow me on all my dope social media platforms. I'll put right under my face. They're not there yet, but they will be there at the Brute00 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if I feel like being silly, on TikTok. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the vid. You all have been awesome. This has been the Indie Corner, and I'll catch you all next time. Also, if you want to support my channel, check out spinwiz.com or download the SpinWiz app and check out my comic series, Trouble. It was written with a lot of love, and it was definitely my favorite comic series to write. I've also written it in English and in Spanish, so whatever floats your boat, I got it for you. Thanks again, and check it out.